Welcome back to The Point. I'm Eric Mitchell. We're talking about the internet, and we're talking about artificial intelligence and deep learning and how the truth. Well, that's what we're talking about today, the truth of the internet. We live in a society where we put everything on the internet. We live and die by social media. We live by our cell phones. 2020 has confined most of us to our homes and going out just for things we need and back home. And we're watching and we're streaming and we're letting everything in and nobody really pays attention. We see the word malware, but we just think, we're safe and we're immune to it. We don't think about the things we could lose over this, and the fact that somebody with misintentions could really damage our country and our infrastructure. Not a terrorist attack like 9/11 where planes were flown into buildings, but an actual attack of our internet, which could cripple a first world country like America or any other country that's a first world country that's built on the infrastructure like we are. We hear about China all the time, but what if I told you, like you could watch it in the previous segment, that our financial and our electrical and utilities could be taken over by someone, and our country could literally hinge on that? What if I told you further that someone or people could get in and, your special health records and all your documentations out there? What if somebody was able to hack into that and have that access? It's a very real thing. So we have our guest here today, Bijou from Quiznet. I keep saying it right. I'm so proud of myself. We're going to talk about that next. We're going to talk about, since COVID is so big, so many people going into hospitals, their medical records, everything's digital, and we're seeing digital doctors visits now. I want to talk more with Chris about this. So Chris, as I move multiple cameras at once. So let's talk about this. Right. So we live in a COVID world. We have remote doctors because we're trying to be as contactless as possible. Totally love it. I'm a huge fan that this is what we're doing. COVID is a problem. Yeah. But our security is at risk. Our current internet is not safe. You talked about that in the previous segment when it came to utilities and financials, which scares the bejesus out of any of us that have money in our banks. The last thing we want is that I can't remember the last time I put money physically in the bank, like a check. Like, I can't think of the last time I did that. Like, money just, like my finance team always tells me, it just magically appears. Well, that's what I say. Like Peter Pan shows up and sprinkles money in my bank account. It's not how it
Good for you.
Right? It's just amazing. I want that. It's like the money tree my mom said would grow in our backyard. Well, she said we didn't have it, so I guess. But when we talk about finances, obviously you said it in the last segment, financial utilities. What I think something that's very concerning is that our medical records, which contain all of our history, all of our vital information. With the current internet, if I understand you right from just talking about financial and utilities, our current internet isn't going to protect us. People could hack into that and cause a lot of problems. Am I right on that?
Yeah, it's happening every day. Like just since COVID started, they figure that 510 hospital systems have been taken down by ransomware. 510 in America. I think it was around 3,000, facilities in America, and 510 have reported. Like last year, 85% of hospital systems were actually hacked in some way. The 15% that say they weren't probably were. They just didn't want to report it, right? When you get 85%, it's 100%, right? But it's what's really scary about it is it's not just a matter of like hacking a system. Like people think of hacking as, oh, I went and stole some medical records and now I've got your records and I'm going to, change your identity or whatever. That is such a low problem on the list that we should even be worried about. The things that are happening that are really scary are things like all of the devices that we're starting to use are all being connected to the internet. It can be even a closed network inside the hospital system itself. But like there was a group that was down. There was a lady that was down in a hospital last year down in New Orleans, and some guys just went through her insulin pump, right? So the insulin pump is connected to the nursing station. They went through the insulin pump, shut 3 hospitals down, almost killed a whole bunch of people, and just got it through, internet-connected devices in the hospital. So think about, this is why everything is heading towards connecting to the internet. When we talk about 5G, when you talk about internet of everything, and you're getting billions and then tens of billions of micro devices that are connecting to the internet, to the networks, one of the big things that can happen is it's not a matter of like a malware as much as it can also just be, hey, I'm going to go in and I'm going to shut that machine down on purpose, or I'm going to change the way that that's reading, or I'm going to change your medical records. And so now you won't know if the medications you're on are the correct dosage, right? So it's assassination by medical, right? This is like a huge risk that people can just say, look, I can control your system. You pay me so much money, or you won't know what records are correct, right? That's the scary part. And that's why you've got to have like a blockchain with mutable records that can't be changed. But you've got to also have it quantum safe, because as quantum computers are coming on right now, they can break into your blockchain. So a blockchain is not safe unless it's a quantum safe blockchain. Yeah. So you have to think beyond where we are today. This is what we have been working on with, NASA and Jet Propulsion Labs and Caltech and Oxford and, all these huge groups for 10 years to put this together, because obviously you were now in the middle of it.
Yeah, and you talk about all those amazing groups, NASA, Caltech. You've also worked with our military leaders to keep as part of our national security, which is key to so many things, because we're constantly reminded about China, but we have a lot of people out there that want to hack and do damage. There's a lot of bad people out there. I brought up Cambridge Analytica, which I don't think are bad people, but they were hacking an election, completely different. But there's a lot of information out there. They exposed it. I think that should have been a wake-up call for so many Americans going, wow, my information's out there and I don't truly own it. But you have created, and I want to get this in before you go. Now, you have created over the last 10 years, you've mentioned that you have this quantum safe internet. So basically a new internet that Al Gore has nothing to do with. So we're safe. Al can stick to making sure we try to keep our planet safe and healthy. So we have this. And you've been doing this, it's been up and running for over 18 months now. That's pretty impressive. Can you...
Yeah, it runs all the way through Europe and into Palo Alto and into Salt Lake and back over up into Europe.
Wow. And, so this is hack-proof internet is what I'm reading. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, right. So what we do is we're not getting off the internet, because the internet, there's $4 trillion worth of hardware, right? So the internet itself, the hardware itself, Cisco and Huawei and all the routers that are out there. I mean, Cisco probably runs 90% of the routers anyway. But so you don't want to replace that, right? Yep. So you have to be hardware agnostic. So what we actually did was we created a tunnel that sits on top of it that created an autonomous AI layer that's also quantum safe, and it opens up a tunnel that basically tells the other hardware on the internet, ignore everything that you have on your hardware, ignore your own firmware, and listen to us instead, and then you can't put malware on the system. So it becomes protected with basically quantum physics, okay, and the physical layer. And so it's not it physically, you can't put malware on it, you can't put a virus on it. You're transmitting using artificial intelligence that is making it a smart internet instead of a dumb internet. It's not that the internet's dumb, it's just it doesn't have artificial intelligence built into it.
Yeah, that is true. So this has been amazing. I want to thank you, Chris, for joining us. So before you go, how can folks learn more about Quiznet? I keep wanting to say Quiznos and it makes me hungry. Instead, you're Quiznet, which is completely different. How can folks learn more about you? I'm sure there's a lot of people out there want to learn about this new, safer internet. I know a lot of us talk about it. We talk about our safety. We talk about the things that people can see in our lives, our cameras that seem to be everywhere. Everything's virtual. How can folks learn more about your company?
So, it's just funny because you're the first person that we've actually gone out to the public and talked to about it. We've been kind of in stealth mode for 10 years with this it's been a huge global effort, with all of these companies, and actually the U.S. government's been heavily involved. But, we're at that stage where if you are an investor and you want to talk to us, we'll do a little bit. But if you look at the website, in April of this next year is when we're really going to do our launch, and then it'll all come out heavy. So you are kind of, the first outlet that we've actually even talked to about this. So it's you get the exclusive to show it as a launch. So.
Sweet, we love it. Yeah, so we'll have to have you back in April when it launches. That's just simple. It's really easy. We'll have to have you back. Well, Chris, I want to thank you so much. Chris Bijou, ladies and gentlemen, joining us today with Quiznet, learning about the new internet, talking about the safety. This has been amazing, Chris. I just got to tell you, it's fascinating and it's concerning at the same time. Working for so long in the Silicon Valley, these are things that we've always talked about. We've always been cautious of safety, cautious of what people can see. It's amazing when I've worked in different realms, especially in the medical world, when you talk about HIPAA, and right, we spend so much time keeping that safe. And even coming from the military, you got to think about most of the military records are kept digitally now. Everybody's, your SRB and everything, that's your documentation as being in the military. All of that stuff is now digital. It's all held on a card. I mean, everything. Imagining someone being able to hack into that should scare you, because there's a lot of information out there. Especially on a military person, that's everything. That's social on down. So, Chris, it's been amazing having you here on the show today, my friend. I want to thank you so much for joining us. So.